And we're talking about reinforcements. We're talking about changing behavior. It's something that we're pretty conscious of. We know what we're doing. We're looking at consequences for behavior. Well, apparently I cannot write. But you're looking at consequences for behavior. So how can we remember all of these different things like reinforcement and punishment and positive and negative? What do they all mean? It gets really confusing. So I like to do this. I'm going to go ahead and erase this just so I have a little more room on my page. I like to draw the box. So what is the box? I would start off by having 4 quadrants. And you have 2 options for whether or not a behavior will change, and it's going to either increase or decrease. So reinforcement, and you also have punishment. So reinforcement and punishment, and then we also know that we can either add something to a situation or take something away from a situation in order to try and decrease or increase behavior. So we can have a positive or negative. And much like I said in the previous example with classical conditioning, we're really thinking of math here. Whenever you see positive, you're thinking add, a plus sign. And whenever you see negative, you're thinking subtract. You're thinking a negative sign. Reinforcement absolutely always means that behavior is going to increase. Your behavior is always increasing. Punishment, however, means that the behavior is always decreasing. It's going away. You're eliminating the behavior. So how does that work? You have positive reinforcement, which means you are adding something. You are adding something to a situation to increase the behavior. For example, a teacher might give a student a gold star every time they finish a book in elementary school. They are giving a student a gold star to increase how often they'll read books and how often they'll finish books. So we call this positive reinforcement. And you can also see this as you are giving something pleasurable to someone to increase a behavior. So you are giving them some kind of pleasurable thing or item or reward so that their behavior will change. You can also have positive punishment. So again, positive and negative, you're talking about adding and you're talking about subtracting. You're not talking about whether or not it's good or bad or if they like it or if they don't. You're only talking about positive and negative from a very mathematical mindset. So you would say you have positive punishment, and this is when you are adding something to a situation to decrease someone's behavior. So an example might be, and we talked about this in class, there was a question that was difficult for everyone, and it was one of the more missed questions on the My Psych Lab, and it said you are grounding someone so that they don't come home late anymore. Your parents are giving you something, they're giving you a consequence, they are giving you a grounding, and that's something you don't want. You're giving something unpleasurable to that person. So this is telling you that you are giving someone a grounding, you're grounding them, and that's hopefully going to decrease how often they come home late. You're going to try and decrease how often they come home late. So again, you're giving them some kind of unpleasant thing, some kind of consequence. You can also have negative reinforcement and negative punishment. So negative reinforcement. We are taking something away, we are subtracting something from the situation in order to increase a behavior. Negative reinforce. So let's say every time you get a good test grade, your parents take away chores. So, oh, good job on your test. We want you to keep doing well on your test. We want your test taking and good grade behavior to be reinforced, to increase over time. So you know what we'll do? We'll take away the fact that you have to do dishes on Monday and Tuesday this week. You're taking something away. You're taking away, so you're removing an unpleasant thing or consequence to reinforce that behavior. You're removing. So then you could also do the same thing with punishment. You can take something away to decrease behavior. If you're wanting to take something away to decrease a behavior, you might say you could take someone's cell phone. So if you are having negative punishment, sorry about that, you are taking away someone's cell phone as a consequence of them texting and driving. You are removing a pleasant stimulus. With negative punishment, like I said, you're taking away something that person wants. You're taking away something they like. Negative, you're taking it away. And punishment, you are decreasing their behavior as a result. Take away a cell phone, something that someone would want. Hopefully it'll start to decrease how often they text and drive. Your book calls the different types of punishment something a little different. Positive punishment is also called punishment by application. And if you ever get stuck, just think application, you're adding. And then you could also have punishment by removal. And remember, if you're removing something, you're subtracting it. Hopefully that makes a little more sense. I'm going to go ahead and clear this all off, and then I'll clear up the chart for you. So if you want to draw it your own or make your own little notes, it might be a little easier. Go ahead and erase all that. All right. So starting at the beginning with operant, which again we talked about Watson, Skinner. These are things that you know are going on. You're very conscious of them. It's voluntary. They're things that you want to do in order to manipulate some kind of behavior. So we'll switch colors just for fun. We'll do a lighter purple. So we have our big giant box. We have 4. We have reinforcement, and you have punishment, and then you have positive, and then you have negative. Positive, just another way of saying add. Negative, just another way of saying subtract. Reinforcement, fancy word for telling you a behavior is going to increase. Punishment, fancy word to tell you that a behavior is going to decrease. So you have positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement can also be, remember, positive just means add. But in terms of talking about an unpleasant or pleasant stimulus, positive reinforcement would be adding a pleasant stimulus, because if you are giving someone something that they want, something that they enjoy, you're going to continue doing that behavior. Remember, a kid wants those gold stars. A teacher is giving them a pleasant stimulus, those gold stars for reading books. Then you can also have negative reinforcement. So negative reinforcement, you are taking, you are removing, you are subtracting a pleasant stimulus. I take that back. I said that wrong. Forgive me. You are taking away an unpleasant stimulus. Unpleasant. So, for example, you are taking away something that someone doesn't like. Remember, I said your parents might take away some chores to reinforce how often you do well on a test. If you do well on a test, we'll take away some of your chores. So again, you're removing something unpleasant. The chores are unpleasant, which is negative reinforcement because you're taking something away to increase behavior. So over here, you can have positive punishment. Positive punishment can also be called punishment by application. And if you're punishing someone, you want to decrease a behavior and you're giving something, you're adding something. So this would be giving. And if you want someone to stop doing something, you're probably going to give them something that they do not like. So you're going to give them something unpleasant. So you're going to give someone something that they do not like in hopes that they decrease that behavior. So my example before was you are going to give someone, you're going to ground them, you're going to give them a consequence. And by giving them that consequence, that unpleasant stimulus, you're going to decrease how often they stay out late, is the goal. And then you can also have negative punishment, which we also call punishment by removal. And if you are taking something away, you are removing. And if you're punishing, you're decreasing behavior. You are removing something that they like. If someone takes your favorite shirt, is that going to make you want to hang out with them again? Or if someone takes your favorite, whatever, your favorite baseball or your lucky hat, if they're removing something pleasant, does that make you want to hang out with them again? Probably not. So again, think of this as negative punishment. Negative tells us we're subtracting. We are removing some kind of stimulus. And it's probably going to be a pleasant one because something pleasant would make you want to do it again. But because this is punishment, you want to remove that pleasant stimulus to hopefully decrease. So again, taking away someone's license, removing something that they genuinely want. Their license is something you want, or your phone is something that you want as a consequence of texting and driving or drunk driving. You would take away something pleasant, such as the ID or the phone, to hopefully decrease that behavior. Hopefully that makes sense. I know I repeated it a lot, but hopefully by repeating